Hi everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder. Today we're diving into a filing that's like a corporate oopsie daisy moment, a correction that tells us something wasn't quite right the first time around. Stick around as we decode what first Guaranty bank shares is really telling us now. And before we get into the nitty gritty, if you love getting clear, simple explanations of complex financial news, make sure you're subscribed. Also, we have a fantastic community over on Discord, linked in the description, where we discuss these filings further. Alright, so what we have here is an amended report, meaning they had to go back and fix something from a previous filing. Think of it like sending a text message and then realizing you spelled something hilariously wrong and sending a correction. This is exactly what First Guaranty Bank shares had to do. This particular filing is an 8K CAN, which is essentially a current report that's being amended. The original report came out on July 7th, with the key event being the issuance of shares of common stock on June 30th, 2025. Now, they're telling us that number wasn't quite right. So the company initially reported issuing a total of 2,201,448 shares of its common stock, but they're now correcting that to say the actual total number of shares issued was 2,231,748. That's a difference of 30,300 shares. It's not a massive swing in the grand scheme of things, but for a publicly traded company, accuracy in these numbers is super important. The core of the correction is really about the breakdown of where those shares went, specifically in a private placement, which is basically selling shares directly to a select group of investors. Not on the open market. They initially reported a different number of shares sold. Now they're saying that in this private placement they sold 160 shares at 8.8 each. The initial report had a different figure for this private placement, and this amendment is to fix that specific detail. It's important for investors to have the correct information about how many shares are being issued and through what channels. The company's common stock is traded on the Nasdaq Stock Market LLC under the ticker symbol FGBI. They also have preferred stock, specifically 6.75% Series A. Fixed rate non-cumulative perpetual preferred stock, which trades under the symbol FGBIP. This shows us they have multiple layers of ownership and financing. The juicy part of this amendment falls under item 3.02, which deals with unregistered sales of equity securities. This means they sold these shares without publicly registering them with the SEC, which is allowed under certain exemptions like private placements or specific exchanges. The filing details that these shares were issued through a few different avenues. There was the private placement we just talked about, and then shares were also issued as part of an exchange agreement dated June 4, 2025 with Edgar Ray Smith III. On top of that, shares were also tied to amendments of promissory notes, specifically the promissory note amendment dated June 4, 2025 with Edgar Ray Smith III, and top of that, shares were also tied to amendments of promissory notes, specifically the promissory note amendment dated June 4, 2025 with Edgar Ray Smith III. On top of that, shares were also tied to amendments of promissory notes, specifically the promissory note amendment dated June 4, 2025 with Edgar Ray Smith III, LAC and Tate Investment LAC, and another amendment to a Now, why is this section so significant? When companies issue shares without public registration, they typically rely on exemptions provided by the Securities Act. In this case, they're citing Section 4.2 in Regulation D. This generally means they sold the shares directly to a limited number of sophisticated investors and followed specific rules to ensure these investors were informed and capable of bearing the risks without needing the full public disclosure process of a registered offering. They are also stating that all the participants in this private placement were accredited investors. This is a key requirement for many of these exemptions. Accredited investors are essentially individuals or entities that are deemed financially sophisticated and can afford to take on the risks of unregistered security. They are also stating that all the participants in this private placement were accredited investors. This is a key requirement for many of these exemptions. Accredited investors are essentially individuals or entities that are deemed financially sophisticated and can afford to take on the risks of unregistered securities. The entire reason for this amended filing is to correct the introductory paragraphs of the original Form 8K. They are essentially deleting and replacing the first two paragraphs to accurately reflect the total number of shares issued and the specifics of the private placement sale. This is crucial for transparency and ensuring that all investors have access to the most accurate, up-to-date information. The report is signed by Eric J. Dosch, the Chief Financial Officer, on July 15, 2025. This is the person responsible for the company's financial reporting in financial reporting and accuracy. His signature here signifies that the company stands by the corrected information provided in this amendment. So what's the story here? First, Guaranty banned shares had to issue a correction because they got the numbers wrong in their initial report about issuing a significant number of shares. This included shares sold privately and shares issued as part of debt settlements and exchanges. While the company is highlighting that these were all done under specific exemptions and sold to accredited investors, the need for a correction raises a small flag. It's not the end of the world, but it does suggest a slip up in their reporting process. From a Warren Buffett perspective, you want management that is meticulous. While this is a relatively small error in the grand scheme of share issuance, it does make you wonder about the internal controls and attention to detail. It doesn't appear to be a fundamental flaw in their business strategy or a major financial distress, but rather an operational hiccup. They are effectively raising capital and restructuring some debt through these share issuances, which is a common business practice. The key is the accuracy and transparency of the reporting. The fact that they caught and corrected it is a positive sign, but it does mean investors need to be extra diligent when reviewing their filings. The quickness of the correction also shows, alright, that's our breakdown of first Guaranty banned shares amended filing. What's your take on these numbers and what they signal for the company's future? Do these types of corrections worry you, or do you see them as a sign of good corporate governance when they're caught and fixed? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this analysis was valuable, hitting that like button really helps us out, and please subscribe for more deep dives into corporate financial news. Don't forget to check out the Discord community in the description for more in-depth discussions. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.